Good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. I'm a political asylum lawyer, and my law firm helps immigrants all over the country, from all over the world, to secure their future here in the United States through asylum. This is the Asylum Answers Show. I'm going to answer your questions about getting asylum in the USA. So go ahead, start leaving them in the comments. What other questions you have for me about getting asylum? I want to know. I'm going to address them right here, right now. Hello on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, TikTok. How are you doing? I'm Brian Manning. I'm a political asylum lawyer. My law firm's based in Texas, but we help people all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you're located, we might be able to help you. First things first, let me know where you're watching from. Say hello. Tell me where you are. I love to hear where folks are watching from. Hello to you too. Thank you. That was quick. Let me know where you are. Say hello and go ahead and start leaving your questions in the comments about asylum in the United States. I'm going to say a couple words though before I get to your questions about who can be included in your case as a dependent. First of all, what do I mean when I say included in your case as a dependent? By that I mean when let's say you're the principal applicant, you're the person applying for asylum, you're eligible to include in your case certain people. When I say include or include as a dependent, I mean that when they're included in your case, if you win asylum, they get asylee status also, like immediately. The same second that you win asylum, they get asylee status. So it can be your spouse, you got to be actually married to them, and then also your children who are under 21 years of age and who are not married. They have to be single, okay? They have to be single when you apply and at the time that you actually get granted asylum. If they get married before you get asylum, they will not get asylee status through you. They're not eligible to be a dependent in your case. But there's other rules, though, about who can be when your spouse or child can actually be a dependent in your case, okay? It can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes this is confusing to people. And really, what's really tough is that sometimes people think that their spouse or their child is rightfully included in their case as a dependent. They're like, okay, great, I win, they're going to win too. But it turns out that's not the case. And it doesn't work that way because of certain little rules. And I want to tell you about a couple of them now. First of all, one of the things that can keep your spouse or your child from being a dependent in your case is if they're not here in the United States, okay? They have to be physically present in the United States when you get your positive asylum decision, when you get granted asylum. They have to be here in the United States in order for them to benefit from that asylum status that you just won, okay? Now, if they're not in the United States, like if they're abroad and you win asylum, there is a process for you to bring them here to the United States. But it's a drawn out kind of long ordeal. You have to file a petition with USCIS. That petition has to get approved, and that takes a long time. Right now, the average is about 18 months for USCIS to approve that petition. And then your family members have to go to a visa interview or an interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad and get a document that allows them to come here. So it's a big, long ordeal. So it's much better and faster if they're already here because they get asylee status immediately when you get it, if they're here and they're included in your case as dependents. But here's the other big one. Your spouse and children will not be able to be included in your case as a dependent if they're not on the same track as you. What do I mean by that? The asylum world is kind of divided into two, okay? There's two fundamentally different types of asylum procedures, two different tracks, we can say, okay? One is defensive asylum cases. These are cases where you're applying for asylum as a defense against deportation. This is, generally speaking, for people who come to the United States without a visa. Like if someone comes to the southern border and says, hey, I want asylum, they get put in deportation proceedings and they apply for asylum defensively. They're seeking asylum as a defense to deportation. That's the defensive track. The affirmative track is for people who have a case pending with USCIS, which stands for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's the agency that I used to work for as an asylum lawyer. That's the agency that handles affirmative asylum cases. Now, generally speaking, this is for people who came with a visa, okay? They came on a visa and then they decided to apply for asylum in the United States. So these are the two tracks, defensive asylum and affirmative asylum. your spouse and child cannot be included in your case unless they're on the same track as you. So let's say you came on a visa and then you apply for asylum. Well, your spouse or child may be here in the United States, but if they are in deportation proceedings, they cannot be a dependent in your affirmative asylum case. Okay. Like let's say you came on a visa, but then your spouse couldn't get a visa. And they came to the southern border and came in and said, hey, I'm afraid of being harmed in my country. Can I stay here? Well, they would be in deportation proceedings, whether they've already filed their own asylum application or not. It doesn't matter, because they are in deportation proceedings. They cannot be a dependent in your affirmative asylum case. Okay. Now, the other way is true as well. And it works the same way for people who are in defensive proceedings. If you're in immigration court proceedings and you're applying for asylum defensively, if your spouse or child is not in deportation proceedings, they can't be a dependent in your case. So let's say you came to the southern border, but then later your child, or later or before, your child came on a student visa, or let's say they came on a tourist visa and they just stayed. Well, when you're in deportation proceedings and they're not in deportation proceedings, the government has never come to them and said, oh, we're going to try to deport you, and given them a notice to appear, putting them in deportation proceedings, then they can't be a dependent in your case. Okay. They have to be on the same track as you, either in deportation proceedings or not in deportation proceedings, to be eligible to be included as a dependent in your case. All right. Now, in either scenario, whether you're applying affirmatively or defensively, once you win, you can then do this process that we talked about earlier, where you send a petition to USCIS to ask your spouse or your eligible child to get asylee status through you. And you can do that even if they're here in the United States. It doesn't matter whether they're abroad, they can come here on this basis, or if they're already here, they can get asylee status through you, through your asylee status, after you file this petition called Form I-730. Okay. But again, it takes a while. Even if they're here in the United States, it takes USCIS a long time to approve this petition and to give your family member asylee status through you. Okay. So that's how adding a dependent, or that's how this sort of framework works for who can be a dependent in your asylum case. And it matters whether you're both in the same sort of track, either in deportation proceedings in immigration court or not. Okay. All right, let's go to the questions. We've got Lorchi, sorry for mispronouncing that, says hello on YouTube. Hello, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Over on TikTok, we've got, all right, legal entry in U.S. options after having an affirmative asylum case dismissed by the judge. On TikTok, Riz asked that question. Thank you, Riz, for the question. So it sounds like what you're saying is that you applied for asylum affirmatively with USCIS, and then the case was sent or referred from USCIS to the immigration court because USCIS said, sorry, we don't think you qualify for asylum. And they sent your case to the immigration judge, but then the immigration judge dismissed your case. Is that right, Riz? Is that the scenario? And then you're asking, okay, well, now what? What can I do to stay in the United States and get legal status here? I think that's what you're asking. Let me know if that's not what you meant. Unfortunately, if you apply again for asylum, if you send your application to USCIS after your case was dismissed from immigration court, in this scenario, USCIS has said that they're probably going to send it straight back to the immigration court. They're going to receive it. We're talking here about cases where an asylum case has been dismissed from immigration court after the person had an interview at USCIS and the case was sent from USCIS to immigration court, then it gets dismissed from immigration court. If that person tries to apply again with USCIS, USCIS announced not too long ago, their policy is that they're going to say, hey, we'll accept it. We'll say accepted as of X date, it's pending. However, we're also sending it back to immigration court and putting you back in deportation proceedings. So then you'd be right back where you just were, which is in immigration court proceedings. Now, if you really, really want to have your asylum case heard and adjudicated, to have a chance to fight your case in immigration court, then you could do that. That could make sense for you if you think you have a chance to win and you want to have the judge consider your case if your case was dismissed previously without your consent, because that happens sometimes. Sometimes people in immigration court, they want to fight their case, but the judge says, no, sorry, because the prosecutors from ICE want to dismiss this, I'm going to agree with them and I'm going to dismiss it. And then you didn't get to explain your case to the judge. Well, if your case gets dismissed and you really want your chance to explain your case again and fight your case and try to win your case, then it could make sense to apply again with USCIS. But you just got to know it's going to get sent back to immigration court where you're at risk of being deported or getting a deportation order. So it is risky, but for some people, it's worth the risk. Other than that, I'm sorry, Riz, I don't have any good ideas. You should know that if you marry a U.S. citizen, that may be a route to get status. I'm not recommending that anyone get married for that purpose, but I just want you to know that if you do get married to a U.S. citizen, that can be a route to get permanent status here. I just want you to know that, okay? All right, let's go over to YouTube and Facebook and see what's going on over there. Masoom Syed says, hello, do you have any office in Pittsburgh? Thanks for asking. So the question is, do we have an office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? And the answer is no, we don't, but it's okay. We got you covered, okay? It doesn't matter where you are. We help people all over the country. So my office is, my law firm is based in Houston, Texas, but we help people all over, including Pittsburgh and all over. We got lots of clients, of course, in Texas because that's where we're based. But we also have clients in tons of other places, lots in California, lots in New York, lots in Florida, lots around Chicago, but also in Pennsylvania. So we can help you. We handle really everything virtually. If your case is in immigration court and there ends up being in-person immigration court hearings, we'll come wherever we need to go to be there in person with you, okay? But all the other stuff we handle in virtually. We handle it through video conferences and doing stuff online. We even do that for our clients in Texas. So even for people that are in Houston, where our office is based, we still don't do in-person meetings. We don't do in-person case development. We don't do in-person practice for their interview or hearing. We do all that stuff virtually for everyone. So it doesn't matter where you are. We help people all over the country. So call us today. All right. Call us, and actually, better than calling us is go online, go to the website, winasylum.com, winasylum.com, winasylum.com. And you can schedule a consultation to talk with one of our asylum professionals to see if we can help you, okay? We're going to analyze your situation, see what's going on, and tell you whether we think we can help you. And if so, we're going to explain to you how. In other words, we're going to tell you what we're going to do concretely to give you the best possible chance to win your asylum case, okay? So go to winasylum.com, that's winasylum.com, and schedule a consultation. Right now, they're free. Okay, we used to charge, but right now, you can schedule one for free. So take advantage of that and call us. Or you can go to my profile for our telephone number, but it's even easier, quicker just to schedule it online. All right, right on. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? So Lorchi says, or Lorcy, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, while waiting for your asylum interview, can you travel to meet your spouse in Canada? Thank you for the question. The question is, while you're waiting for your asylum interview with USCIS, can you travel abroad? Can you go to another country, for example, to meet up with a family member, like a spouse? Yes, if you first get what's called advanced parole. This is a permission that you apply for with USCIS saying, hey, I'd like to leave the United States, but I want to come back and keep pursuing my asylum case. Will you give me this permission that's going to allow me to get back into the United States? And if you have, especially if you have a good reason to need to travel abroad, they will give you this permission. It takes a while for them to adjudicate it, for them to make a decision on this request. It might take well over a year. So apply now if you think you might want to do this anytime in the next couple of years. And you will have reasonable assurance that you'll be let back in. Technically, there's still a little bit of risk that you could be denied entry when you come back to the border or back to the airport. But the risk of that happening is so low that I think it's okay if you get the advanced parole to travel abroad and come back. But as you may know, you should not go back to your country, the country from which you're seeking asylum, okay? That will almost certainly defeat your asylum claim, and it may lead to you not getting let back in, even though you have advanced parole. All right? That's how that works. Thank you for the question. All right. All right. Thank you for that. That's very cool. All right. So Masum Sayed says, if I get asylum status, then can my family who are in my home country be able to travel and come to visit in the USA? Thanks for asking the question. So the question is, if you win asylum, can your family members who are back in your home country come and visit you in the United States? Well, here's how it works. You can do a petition to allow your wife and your children, if those children are under the age of 21 and single, meaning they're not married, you can do a petition that allows them to come here permanently as asylees. They get asylum status through you. They'll have that status once they get into the United States. It's a long process. It takes right now on average about 18 months for USCIS to approve this application, and then it takes even longer for the processing to go through abroad, where they have to go to an interview at a US embassy or consulate and then finally get to come here. But in terms of just coming to visit, if you want family to come short term, no, there's no kind of special status that's going to allow them to be able to come and visit. I mean, they can apply for a tourist visa, of course, but if it's your immediate family, like your spouse and children, there's a pretty good chance that they'll get denied a tourist visa because the visa officer, the consular officer, which I used to be, by the way, may see that their family member has asylum, stayed in the United States and then got asylum, and they may think, well, this person applying for the tourist visa probably is just going to go and stay permanently with their family member, and they're just trying to get around that long, cumbersome process of the petition to go permanently, and so they might get denied because of that. So short answer is there's no special status or anything that allows you to bring someone here as a visitor, but you can petition to bring your spouse and children to come here permanently. I guess they could come, under that petition and then not stay very long and just leave. But I probably wouldn't recommend doing that unless they really do intend to stay here long term as asylees. Thanks for the question. Oh man, this is tough. So on Facebook, Mo says, my case is pending since 2015. What is your suggestion, please? Your asylum interview has been pending with USCIS for almost, let me do the math, 8 years, 9 years? 2015? That's ridiculous. That is a totally unreasonable delay, which means that you're in a good position to force USCIS to give you your asylum interview. You do this through what's called a mandamus lawsuit, where you bring a claim in federal court where you're asking a federal judge to tell the asylum office that they have to give you your interview. Because you see, the government's supposed to act in a reasonable time on any immigration application. When they don't do that, you can sue them. And the longer you've been waiting, the more likely the US government is, once you sue, to say, oh, you know what, we don't really want to fight this case. So if you promise to withdraw the case, we'll give you your interview and your decision right away. In your case, having been waiting like 9 years, you're in a very good position to be able to force your interview. I recommend that you sue. I recommend that you bring a mandamus lawsuit. If you want to talk with us about that, which we absolutely love doing, we love these lawsuits, go to the website winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com, and schedule an asylum strategy session so we can give you the details and see if we think that this is going to be a good fit for you. But if you've been waiting since 2015, it probably is. Let me address something that always comes up when we talk about suing the government. When we talk about bringing a mandamus lawsuit, people always say to me, oh, but Brian, will this sort of drastic action of suing the government, is it going to hurt my underlying asylum case? Like, is it going to make me look bad or too aggressive and make them want to sort of take revenge against me and deny my asylum case because I dared to sue the US government? Completely understandable. I get that. It makes complete sense that you would think that and wonder that, but no. Thankfully, the answer is no. It's not going to hurt your underlying asylum case. We've been doing this a ton, and I assure you, I'm very confident that the asylum officer who ends up making the decision, interviewing our clients and making the decision, is not holding this against us, okay? There's a couple of reasons why I believe that, but the long and short of it is that it's not going to hurt your case. Suing to force your interview or to force your decision after you've had the interview is not going to negatively affect the underlying asylum case. So don't let that stop you from demanding progress, demanding action on your asylum case to which you are entitled. Okay? Got it. Thank you. Lorcy says, always a pleasure to watch you. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Let's go over actually to TikTok and see what's going on there. Okay. What do I do if my girlfriend comes to the US when I've applied for asylum for a long time ago and we're not married? Thanks. So the question is, what do you do if you've applied for asylum and you're waiting for your asylum interview and your girlfriend or your boyfriend comes to visit you? Can you get them status somehow? Is there anything you can do to allow them to be able to stay here or perhaps be included in your asylum case? No, unfortunately, you would have to be married in order to be able to include them in your case as a dependent. In other words, they can only get asylum status through you, through being a part of your case if you're actually married. So if you're really serious and you think you want to get married, you could get married. Okay. It's okay to get married after you already applied. As long as you're married before you actually get that decision, then they can still be included in your case as a dependent. You just have to show the asylum office, hey, look, we got married. Here's our marriage certificate, which you can get. You can do this pretty easily in the United States, pretty easily and cheaply. And you have to amend your asylum application to indicate that you're married and to check the box to say, yes, I want them to be included in my case. And then if you win asylum, they get asylum too through you. But apart from that, no, there's no special like status that they can get because they're the boyfriend or girlfriend of someone who's seeking asylum or someone who has won asylum. Okay. Thanks for the question. All right. So on YouTube, Diego says, hello, I'm an affirmative asylum pending for 2, I think, years. And I got married to a person who just applied for affirmative asylum 1 month ago. Can this person add me in the process as a spouse if we get married? Thank you. Thanks for the question, Diego. I appreciate it. So the question is, if you've got an asylum case pending and then you get married to someone who has themselves also applied for asylum, can you add each other as dependents in the other person's asylum claim? And the answer is yes. You can add a spouse at any time before you actually get that asylum decision. So even though you've already applied, if you later get married, yeah, you could ask the asylum office to add them as a dependent in your case. And they can ask the asylum office to add you as a dependent in their case. And then you sort of get 2 bites at the apple, 2 chances, right? Because if you win asylum through your case, then they also get asylum status. And if they win asylum through their case, then you also get asylum status, okay? So you get a couple of chances here. Sometimes it makes sense to not have both spouses in a marriage apply for asylum. And usually, in my opinion, it makes more sense to have just the person who has the stronger case apply as a principal applicant and the other person be the dependent. But in this scenario, the question, it was one where both people had independently applied for asylum before getting married. In fact, the person who asked the question, they said they're not married yet, but they might get married. So then, you both have existing cases. One of you could withdraw your claim and say, oh, I'm not going to pursue my claim anymore because now I'm married and I'm independent in the other person's case. That might, under some circumstances, certain facts, make sense. That's something that you should talk about with an asylum lawyer, okay? So call an asylum lawyer about that. I would love to talk with you guys about that. Go to the website winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com to schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. And we'll tell you what we think about your situation, whether we think we can help you, and if so, how exactly we will do exactly that. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Got it. Nice. Right. Samuel says, hey, I have a question. Let's hear it, Samuel. What do you have for me? Did you leave the question somewhere below, Samuel? Let me know. All right. All right. So we've got Rubink. Sorry, Rubink. says, hello, sir. I'm an F1 student. I'm gay, and my dad from Africa is not going to pay my school anymore as my community is against us. I don't have anyone to help me maintain my status. Please advise me. First things first, thank you for the question. And I'm sorry that you're in this difficult position. That sounds tough. So I'm sorry you're going through that. First things first, to get asylum in the United States, you do need to be in the United States. Okay. I guess maybe the question is, can you get asylum if you're gay and your parents won't support you because of that? For example, if they refuse to pay your college tuition because you're gay when they otherwise would have been paying it, maybe they're paying it for your siblings who are not gay or something like that. Is that enough to win asylum? No, that by itself is not going to be enough. It's not that kind of harm, even though it's sad and it shouldn't be that way. That's not going to be considered by the asylum officer or an immigration judge in the United States to be harm that is sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution. It's not going to be considered persecution. So that is that. However, the person who asked the question said that they're from Africa. Well, in many African countries, there's a lot of discrimination against people who are gay and a lot of problems for them, such that they may be able to win asylum just based on the fact that they're gay. All right. So someone from Uganda, for example, you have a good chance to win asylum in the United States just by being gay, even if no one's ever hurt you, even if no one's ever threatened you, even if no one in Uganda knows that you're gay. For example, if you've been in the closet, so to speak, you haven't been living openly as gay, but then you come here and you start to live openly and you're like, oh, I don't want to go home because I can't live openly at home without fear of being harmed. Even though no one's ever harmed you or threatened you, and maybe right now they still don't even know that you're gay, you would still have a strong chance for winning asylum just because of the country conditions, right? Because of just how bad it is in Uganda, because of the laws they have against gay people, and because of the way that gay people are treated both by the government and society in general, you would have a pretty good asylum claim. So the point is, for the person who asked the question, Rubink, I think it was, the fact that your dad won't pay your tuition isn't really going to help you. But there may be more to your case than just that. I do recommend, if you're afraid of being harmed or mistreated because you're gay, you should definitely talk to an asylum lawyer, okay, to see if you might be able to put together a compelling case, okay? So call us or go to the website winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, to schedule a consultation for free. We're offering these for free right now with one of our asylum professionals, all right? Do that right now. No need to wait. Do it now. All right. Lucy says, thanks, Brian. My pleasure. You're welcome. All right. So Wahid says, I'm an Afghan across the U.S.-Mexico border, and CBP granted me a 1-year parole. I have an EAD, which is a work permit, and SSN, which stands for Social Security Number or Social Security Card. I have plenty of evidence to show that my life is in danger in Afghanistan, so which is better, asylum office or immigration court? All right. Thank you for the question. And first of all, I'm really sorry to hear, that you're in this difficult position. I'm sorry to see what is going on with your country. It's a shame. So I'm sorry you're in a tough spot. So the question is, if you come to the United States, you come to the border and you get paroled into the United States, should you seek asylum? If you want to do that, should you seek asylum with an immigration court or with USCIS? Well, here's the thing. You don't have an option, okay? It all depends on whether you are in deportation proceedings, okay? People who are in deportation proceedings can only apply for asylum with the immigration court. People who are not in deportation proceedings can only apply for asylum with USCIS. So the question then is, how do you know whether you're in deportation proceedings, okay? Most people who come to the southern border are in deportation proceedings. Most people who come to the southern border get this document called a notice to appear, where it's like, hey, you're a citizen of X country. You came here without permission. You don't have a visa to be here or any kind of status to be here. Therefore, you are deportable or removable under the law, and we're trying to deport you. You need to go to a court on next date. They file that with the court, and then your data shows up in the court registers. That means you're in deportation proceedings. Your only option is to apply with the court. Affirmative asylum is for people who are with USCIS or if you're not in deportation proceedings, your only option is to apply with USCIS. Now, some people who come to the border get this thing called parole that you mentioned in your question, where it's basically like you are not in deportation proceedings. Okay, in your case, basically what they said is you have permission to be here for 1 year. Okay, and based on this, you can also get a work based on certain types of parole. You can get a work permit and Social Security card. When you've got this kind of permission to be here for that year, this kind of parole, then you're not in deportation proceedings, and your only option is to apply with USCIS. It sounds to me, based on what you said in your question, like that's probably you. Probably your only option is to apply with USCIS. Okay. So let us know if you want to discuss that. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, to schedule a free consultation. All right. Mamadou says, what does case pending mean? Like, what does it mean if your case is pending? The question is, what does it mean if your case status, your asylum case status, says that the case is pending? Well, pending is another word to say it is in process. It is active. It means it's being considered. Like if you have any kind of immigration application that you send to USCIS, and then you check your status and it says the case is pending, that just means that it means they've received your application and that they are considering it, and that no final decision has been made yet. Okay. It means it's in process, basically, is one way to look at it. Okay. So it means you've still not gotten a decision, but at some point you'll get the next step, which may be an interview, or it may be just a decision, depending on what kind of case we're talking about. For an asylum case, if you apply with USCIS and your case is just pending, that means the next thing that's going to happen, well, it could be the next step is an interview, or after your interview, your case remains pending until you get the decision. Okay. So you'll get a decision at some point. Thanks for the question. Good question. This is an important one from Diego. Diego on YouTube says, a person is a student F1 status with valid I-20 form and then applies for asylum, and they get a work permit based on their pending asylum case. If they use it to work, will they lose their student status? Thanks for the question, Diego. The question is, if you've got an asylum application pending and you get a work permit based on your pending asylum case, but you've also got student status, like let's say you're an F1 student and you're going to school and you're on student status. Well, will getting that work permit based on your pending asylum case jeopardize or put at risk your student status? And will actually working with that work permit, will that jeopardize your student status? The answer is that just applying for or getting the work permit based on your pending asylum case will not negatively affect your student status at all. But actually working, yes, it could cause you to lose your student status. So don't work beyond what is allowed under the student status, under the rules for that. Even though you have your work permit based on your asylum, don't work on it unless you're okay with possibly losing your student status as a result. Okay. I think it's perfectly fine. In fact, I recommend applying for that work permit based on your asylum status or your asylum pending status, and getting it just in case you need it, in case you decide, oh, I can't afford to live, I got to go work, such that you'll be able to quickly just go ahead and start working. But don't start working unless you are okay with the fact that it could mean that you lose your student status. Okay. All right. Nice. Oh, this is, okay. Yeah, I see. Nice. Oh, man. So, Egunyomi or Samuel says on YouTube, if I submit my asylum application through the mail, how many weeks will I have to wait for a response? Thanks for the question, Samuel. Appreciate it. So the question is, if you apply for asylum with USCIS through mail instead of doing it online, how long is it going to take to get the receipt notice? That's a letter that says, hey, thanks, we got your asylum application. It's pending as of X date. How long is that going to take? It's going to take a long time if you apply by mail, by paper, by physical paper through mail. We've been seeing it take many months. We've been seeing it take like 8 to 12 months to get the receipt notice where you apply online. But guys, there's really no, excuse me, where you apply by mail. There's really no reason to do that. There's no reason to apply by mail. Don't do that. Apply online if you can, okay? I'll say that there have been problems recently. Our law firm and other lawyers that I know have been having problems getting the application to go through online just because it's a terrible system. It's a poorly built software that USCIS has. And there's also certain circumstances under which you can't apply online with USCIS. When you do it, they say, oh, sorry, we rejected, we can't accept it. You have to apply on paper. Like, for example, if you've ever been in immigration court proceedings, then you have to apply on paper. There's other circumstances too where you can't apply online. But if you can apply online, if you're eligible to apply online with USCIS, apply online. Don't do it by mail. Online is faster. It's just better, okay? Online, you get the receipt notice usually the same day or the next day, the letter that says, okay, thanks for applying. We got your application. It's pending as of whatever date. That's same day or next day usually. So do it online, okay? You know, another thing about that is that, you know how you're going to have to, I said we've been seeing people wait 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months to get the receipt notice when they apply by mail. Well, you're not going to be able to get your work permit until you get that receipt notice. You know, you can apply for a work permit 150 days after your asylum application has been accepted by the government, USCIS or the immigration court, right? Well, if you apply and by mail, and it takes them, let's say, 8 months to get you the receipt notice, you will have passed that 150-day mark, right? Those 5 months where you should be able to apply for a work permit. But if you apply for a work permit before you get the receipt notice, it's going to get denied. Why? The people who process the work permits are going to look in the system and they're going to say, no, we don't see a pending asylum application at all for this person. Why? Because it hasn't been put in the system yet. It's still sitting in the mailing room or in some storage closet waiting to be processed and put into the system. Because as soon as they put it into the system, it triggers the letter to be sent to you, the receipt notice that says, hey, we got your application. Okay. But you will not be able to get the work permit until that happens, until they put the data into the system. Okay. And that might be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months after you mail it in. And so you're not going to get a work permit until you get that receipt notice. Now, once you get the receipt notice, as long as it's more than 150 days after you mailed in your application, you will be able then to apply for the work permit. In other words, you don't have to wait 150 days from the date you get the receipt notice, because the receipt notice will be backdated. It'll be backdated to the day that the people in the mailroom stamped the package as received, as having entered the mailroom. So, you know, let's say you have to wait 10 months to get the receipt notice. Well, the next day you can apply for your work permit, and they'll say, okay, you've waited more than 150 days, because the operative date will be the date that it was received in the mailroom, not the date that you're actually getting the receipt notice 10 months later. Okay. All right. That is that. Gotta go. But thank you as always for all your great questions. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, to schedule an asylum strategy session. All right. It'll be with me or one of my colleagues, and we'll be happy to talk about what's going on and tell you whether we think we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. That's what we do every day, all day. It's what we exist for. We exist to help people get certainty and confidence about their future, about their ability to stay safe and stay here and build the life that they want to build in the United States. We do that through asylum. So go to winasylum.com and schedule an appointment now so that we can talk with you and see if we can help you do that. Okay. Thank you. I'll see you soon on another live. Good evening. Stay safe out there. And as always, it's truly a pleasure and an honor to support you in your asylum